And you can find the client when you actually first log into SAP. It will be there in the main screen. For example, the client on this screenshot is 100. So the client is like an independent unit, and in that unit it is the highest node for any module. You will need to create your master data and transaction data separately in each client. However, the configurations can be moved from one client to another client. Now we'll be looking at all these terminologies in the next slide in more detail. What is master data? Master data means it's a common data stored in the system, and it can be used by many different systems, and it can be used indefinitely. Let me give an example. You have a vendor where you buy your phones and you make your phone mobile plans and you pay your bills. So that vendor, we give for example, is Vodafone. So you create the master data for Vodafone. So you give the Vodafone company details, their address, their contact, that's your email, telephone numbers. What are the payment terms? Payment terms mean like for within how many days you need to make the payment from the invoice bill. The bank details or the credit card details, all the details you can key in the master data. Then you have the transactional data. So transaction data, just like its description, it uses the master data in its transactions. For example, when you buy a phone from Vodafone, it becomes a transaction. It's a purchasing an item, so that becomes a transaction. When you make a monthly payment, that's another transaction. So all these transactions are called transactional data, and all these transactions are relevant to a master data, which is Vodafone. So master data is just a common data giving all the information of the company or vendor or customer, a GL account, an asset, anything. And the transaction data uses the master data in its transactions. Let's look at configuration. Now this is the main SAP menu path for your configurations. SAP comes with pre-built with a lot of standard settings, but however you need to specifically configure based on your company's needs. For example, you have to set up your company in SAP with the company code and your company details. You will set up your bank account in SAP. You will set up your chart of accounts, your general ledger structure, all your assets, accounts payables, accounts receivable. All these settings have to be set up in SAP, and this is called the configuration. Now, like we saw earlier, configuration settings can be moved from one client to another client. So how does it move? Every time you do a configuration, it generates something called a transport request. It's a unique number given by SAP. Every time you can have different transport request numbers, so you can just have one transport request number. And this transport request number will identify what is the configuration you did. For example, if you create a company code, you can link it to a transport request number and give the description of creation of company code. That is the transport request. Let's look at the clients and servers. Usually in an SAP implementation, you will have three different servers: the development server, the quality assurance server, and the production server. The development server is where you do all your configurations. So this way you come and first set up the system. And you can have different clients inside one server. For example, development server, I can have a client as 100 for configuration and 110 for unit testing. So unit testing is the testing which you do after you do the configuration to make sure the system works. Then after that, you can release the configuration to a quality assurance server, or you call it the quality testing server. And in this server, the users can do the testing, and you can also carry out training in this server. And if everything passes, then you can release it to the main live system, call it the production server. So that's the purpose. You have three different servers: one to do all your configurations, another one to do your testing, and the final one is your live system. So you actually prevent doing any testing or any configuration directly in the live system, because you do not want to disrupt the normal proceedings. That's why we have the three different servers. One of the organizational units, and actually the most important organizational unit in SAP Financial Accounting, is company code. So the word company code is actually basically your company. They call it company code because it's identified by a 4-character code. Your company is actually an independent legal entity for it which you will create your financial statements. Financial statements are your balance sheet and P&L statement, or you call it as a income statement. Now everything in SAP usually do is linked to your company. Example, all your financial accounting related to accounts payable, accounts receivable, all your purchasing, all your sales, these all somehow will be linked to your company code because you are doing all this production for your company. Now creating a company code, all you have to specify is a company code 4-character code, give a description, give the city, country, currency, language, and when you save it, you can give more details with regard to contact information for telephone number, fax, email, and so on. Now let's look at configuring a company code in SAP. I have given these screenshots, you just have some idea, and this is the menu path of configuring the company code. Let's look at configuring a company code. So we need to go to the configuration menu. So I'll type in SPRO to go to the configuration menu. Okay. Then you got to click on SAP reference IMG button. Okay. Then you go through the following path to configure the company code: enterprise structure, definition, financial accounting, edit, copy, delete, check company code. Then you click on edit company code data, and you can select to create a new company code by clicking on the new entries button. So you got to give a company code name. For example, I'm going to give it as Z123. Give a name for your company. The city, the country, the currency, and the language. Then you click on the save button and it might pop up you for more details. Okay, it's asking you for the title of the company, so you can click on company again. Now here you're given the option to give more detailed info about the company, so you can write more information like this. You can give a search term. Search term basically searches for your company by the name you give, so you can give a name like M&M. So when somebody can just search by typing the letters M&M and search, and the company name will pop up. You can give more detailed street address. You can give a postcode, the city in detail, the country, the region, the PO box number. You can see all the communication details are there. You can give some comments, telephone numbers, all these things you can fill up, and just have to click on this button. And the company code has been created. And whenever you do a configuration setting, it brings up a pop-up menu with the transport request number. Now you can define your own transport request number, or you can use an existing transport request number. So I'm going to use our own transport request number. So I'm going to click on create request. I'm going to give it a description. Create company code and click on the save button. Now generate a different transport request number for the setting we have done. Click on continue. and that saves your transaction. Now if you can click on the back button, you can see your company code has been created, the details. Double click that, you will see the data you have entered. And that's how you create a company code.